Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this special council and mayor meeting of Borough of Englewood Cliffs. Today is October 4th, 2018. It is 8:05 a.m. I call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please do a roll call?
Mayor Kranjak,
Here.
Councilperson Zaversa,
Present.
Councilwoman E. Park, just informed us through Councilwoman O that she will be participating via phone. I will be calling her, Mayor. Councilwoman O. Here. Councilman Park.
Here.
Councilman Wu.
Here.
Borough attorney is not present. The borough administrator is unable to attend, and I'm present there.
Okay, would everybody please rise for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you please remain standing, we lost yesterday a member of our business community, Lee Magnus, who was part of the Wendy's restaurant enterprise chain. So he had his offices here in town, and I was notified yesterday that he passed away. So just a moment of silence for Lee. And also a moment of silence for the police officer in South Carolina who was killed in the line of duty yesterday. And there's 5 or 6 other officers, I believe 6 other officers who were shot. So just a moment for them also. Thank you.
May I call Councilwoman Park?
Hold on. Please also be aware that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so please do everything possible to support all those who are afflicted with this terrible disease. Councilwoman Park just notified us that she is not available to attend in person. She wants us to call her. The clerk will do that, but we're conducting business, and I'll take a minute, but not too much longer than that.
Hello?
Hello? Yes.
Hi, it's Lisette. We just started the meeting,
Okay.
and I took a roll call. Thank you.
Okay, before we go on, if there's a council person who needs to join by phone, make those arrangements before we all sit down here. Thank you. Let's open up, actually, can you please read the Open Public Meetings Act statement?
Adequate notice of this meeting was given to the press and posted as required. Date and time of this meeting was legally given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act. This notice is on file with the municipal clerk and posted on the bulletin board. Minutes of this meeting will be made available to the public upon the completion of typing and proofreading by the municipal clerk.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to open to the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Actually, before we do that, I want to thank former Councilwoman Carol McMorrow for all her help on the council and all her good work. She stepped down on Monday. She will be missed. She was one of the leaders on the council. She was a borough council president. I thank you for your service. She's sitting here today in the audience. So thank you, Carol. Anybody from the public who wishes to be heard, please raise your hand and let me recognize you. Yes.
Carol McMorrow, 489 Summit Street. Mayor, is the borough attorney attending?
She is. She's running late, and she's going to be here in about 5 minutes.
Okay. Some of my questions were for the borough attorney as well, so I don't know if we should...
Well, what I could do is recess until she shows up, since if it's going to be of a legal nature. So I'll put us into recess until she arrives. Let's come out of recess now. Our borough council has joined us.
8:20, Mayor.
Is Ellen Park, Councilwoman Park, on the line?
Yes, she is.
Okay, let's continue.
Councilwoman.
Resident Carol McMorrow's got the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. If I may ask the council people, we've always had decorum that we're not supposed to use our phones on the dais, texting, surfing, whatever you want to call it. Ed, Gloria, please, it's just important when people come up to the microphone and speak. And I've watched the videos and noticed that whenever someone of an opposite party comes up, you don't pay attention. I appreciate, I'm one of residents of the town right now, no longer an elected official, and appreciate your attention. Thank you. The first thing I'd like to do is to read into the record for the residents at home to understand the definition of malfeasance in office. Malfeasance in office or official misconduct is the commission of an unlawful act done in an official capacity which affects the performance of official duties. Malfeasance in office is often grounds for a just cause removal of an elected official by statute or recall election. I just want to read that into the record in case any of the sitting council members up there had not ever heard that before. I know Councilwoman O, that I believe Judge Farrington brought that up at the court in the Eastwood matter. Mayor, I'd like to start by asking, I believe Ellen Park is on the phone. I am aware that she went into closed session in regards to subject matters of the disciplinary charges that were handed out. I have stated that it is my opinion that Ellen Park has a conflict with me. She is suing me. She is a plaintiff in a lawsuit where I am a named defendant. She should not be voting on me. She should not be engaged in any type of a vote or anything having to do with me. And I'm just going to, again, bring that to everybody's attention.
Thank you. Councilwoman Park, are you on the phone?
Yes,
Did you hear that?
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now, the next thing, and I appreciate you allowing the opportunity to just put everything into order here. On September 12th, at the September 26th council meeting, I played a piece of a tape. It was, these tapes are numbered. They came out of the Chaffee versus Borough of Englewood Cliffs et al. Litigation that was filed in July of 2016, and where in January of 2018, the chief's attorney turned over 120 audio tapes that the chief surreptitiously recorded. At the September 26, 2018 meeting, I was not aware that all members of the council, Ed, Gloria, Ellen, Mark, William, all received charges against certain officers. At the bottom, I was not on that email, and I have a copy of the email that was sent to everyone dated September 12th. So that means at the September 26th council meeting, when the vote was called to appoint an independent hearing officer to hear those charges, Councilwoman O, Councilwoman Park, and Councilman Aversa had full knowledge of information that those charges were based on. And I would like to read a footnote. By the way, subsequently, on September 28th, 2 days after the council meeting, I received an email with all the charges with all the other council members on it as well. The borough attorney had then made a decision that I was entitled to the information. I just could not vote or participate in discussion. At the bottom of these charges that everyone received, starting September 12th, there's a footnote. The materials and quotation marks are taken from listening to the tape recording and are written herein as accurately as possible. I must tell you, the charges which reference tape number 102, that Councilman Aversa, Councilwoman Park, and Councilwoman O had knowledge of, is shocking to me how you could have, having knowledge, could have voted no to allow due process to begin and allow the truth to come out. Your statements to the press said you don't have enough information, yet you had information. You lied to the press. You're continually lying to the press, Councilwoman O. You have the information. And you know what? I'm going to play 3 more pieces of tape that are public, because I'm going to keep giving you the information. I'm going to give you the information because the public has a right to know. And I don't know why the 3 of you want to cover up what's going on. But I will not sit back and be a participant in what you are accomplishing, or trying to accomplish, I say. You did accomplish it on the 26th of September. I see it's on the agenda for another vote. I'm going to start. This tape is number 61. Our attorneys have advised us that tape number 61 has been separated into 2 parts. One part is still confidential. That part was named 61A. There is another part that's named 61B. It's quite lengthy, so I cannot play the entire tape. It is almost 3 hours long, that portion. And there is a plethora of pieces of information that people should know about in this town. But I will play 3 right now. This is the first one. I'm so sorry?
The total time of all the
No, this one is 15 seconds. I would play the whole thing. I don't want to be accused of taking it out of context. Thank you.
Altogether, there's over 40 hours.
This one tape is almost 4 hours. 55 minutes have been designated confidential still, and I'm respecting that. I'm playing from the portion that's not confidential. So this is number 1.
Because they think they're going to have me on all the time, they're going to have me on this other shit. The mayor could get, you see what I mean? He's a piece of shit. Now I found out how... There's a lot to go about that. You know what, so oh, really? Yeah. And maybe he's saving it himself, you know, in case he tries to correct it, but I need to know some of those fucking things. I need to know and the other thing is, I had to see him go through the fucking stop sign. I can't blame him.
It's very hard playing off a laptop. Will, yeah, the air conditioning is not helpful.
We're going to turn it off for a minute.
Mrs. McMorro, can you identify the time on the tape that this is?
Absolutely, it's at 1:45. The air conditioning sound overhead is very loud, and I can't hear it, and I'm sitting here.
We're turning it off now. Just give it a minute.
Thank you.
Thanks. Give it a minute. Why don't you start that over?
Thank you.
they're gonna have me. They're gonna have me on overtime, they're gonna have me on this other shit. The mayor could just, you see what I mean? He's too fucking shit. He's a piece of shit. Now I found out that Toby has a lot of dirt. He's got a lot of scary things. Oh, really? Yeah. And maybe he's saving it himself, you know, in case he tries to forget them, but I need to know some of those fucking things. I need to and yet,
Their tax dollars at work.
Yep.
Okay.
I gotta tell you, for those of you that did not hear that, it's quite clear to me. It stated, now I found out that Albie has a lot of dirt on him, and he did a lot of scaly things. And then the captain says, oh, really? And the chief says, yeah. And maybe he's saving it for himself, you know, in case he tries to go after him. But I need to know some of those expletive things. I need to know some expletive shit that I can expletive throw at him. This is our chief of police sitting in the morning, and you would know it's the morning if you listen to the entire tape, with a captain talking about what he wants to do to the mayor. That's number one. Number two. And this, I'm playing number two because in the press, there's been a lot of comments about, this is a joke. Everything Chief Chaffee's saying is a joke. Quote, normal workplace talk. Quote, Chief and other borough employees were only venting their frustration. Quote, it was very tense and they made a silly joke. Fourth, just a joke. I want to play this clip for you.
Bless you.
I used to have guys in that crazy. There was a guy, Jerry Gonzalez. So I don't know, can you imagine Jerry Gonzalez maybe there? We had another guy still, I guess. So Ricardo was over, I'd like to see him for his office. And he goes, where's my fucking money? I calmed down slightly. So Ricardo calls up and says, hey, send somebody over here. Stalak is just coming up the stairs now, right? Okay, get up the stairs. Where's my fucking money? I go to the check. Yeah, right here. The cop's came in. He said, you ever take my money from me again? Oh, you know. But that was it. You know. Let me tell you something. I'm at the point where, you know, if some of those guys were alive, because they're fucking crazy enough to do shit.
I don't know about you guys, but I don't joke around talking about, let me quote this last one. At 2, marker 2, 00:50, it says, the chief says, to his captain, Councilwoman O, Councilman Aversa, I want to make sure you understand this part. Let me tell you something. I'm at the point where if some of those guys were alive, because they're expletive crazy enough to do shit. Are we talking about a hit person? Huh? To come up here and do something to the mayor and I? You people think this is a joke? Every comment in this newspaper, it's a joke. It was a tense situation. Let me tell you something. It doesn't matter how tense I have ever been in my life. And I don't even know people that get tense, that would ever say something joking like that would ever make a threat against somebody, that would ever say, I want to get shit on someone so I can use it against them. That's extortion, in my opinion. You guys have lost it. How could you sit there and actually have to think about whether a hearing needs to be held? Councilwoman O, you're a lawyer. Councilwoman O, I'm asking you a question. I'm not raising my voice.
We're not here to, sit here and...
I am upset at the fact that you're not taking this seriously. I am not yelling at you.
We don't
Stop.
have all the facts.
But you don't need the facts.
Councilwoman O, you don't have the floor.
Pieces.
Councilwoman O, please don't antagonize the
She's
citizen.
allowed to respond to me. I want to hear what you have to say.
What she's yelling at
I
you.
don't have an opportunity to talk later.
No.
You can pick your statement without screaming.
She's not screaming, Councilwoman O. She's having a conversation in fairly normal tones.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes,
Really, Anne Marie?
Yeah, Anne Marie.
Yes,
That was
really.
hilarious.
Thanks for coming 20 minutes late. We're all waiting for you again.
Gee, Ellen Clark, you're not here.
Council members.
Yes.
All right, that's not what this is about. That's not what this is about.
Members, okay?
Let's stay focused.
Whether somebody, a threat was made against my life, okay? Whether you want to call that a joke or not, I don't find it funny. This borough has a zero-tolerance policy against workplace violence, and they have a zero-tolerance policy against sexual commentary in the workplace. And I read these charges, Councilwoman O. You read what was said about me, okay? You read what was said about me with those sexually horrible words. And you vote no to a hearing officer for due process to find out what the truth is? You're not a judge and a jury. You're not supposed to know all the facts beforehand. You're a lawyer. You know what the law is. And let me remind you, Councilwoman O, you voted yes twice before for hearing officers. You just voted yes in 2015. You had no facts. The resolution was in May and June of 2015. You voted yes for a disciplinary hearing officer to be hired to have a disciplinary hearing take place. So quite honestly, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth, because you know, yes, you are. You voted yes. Your record speaks for itself.
Yeah,
The record that you just...
You voted yes for a hearing officer, Councilwoman.
This matter is at the court.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
That's a separate issue. You're mixing, no, you're playing games with words. One has nothing to do with the other.
How is she going to produce 120 tapes for the hearing officer when we can't even have the 120 tapes?
That's not accurate, Councilwoman.
And that's not what you're voting for. You are voting to hire
It's
a...
not independent, okay? Let's be real. You guys picked the hearing officer and then said, we're going to move forward. And that's not the case right now. That's not what's going to happen.
No, I think you're just avoiding the issue here.
That's impossible.
You're just avoiding the issue. So everybody here, you have to understand that due process is a two-way street. The officers that have been charged administratively, they all have due process rights, which is my obligation to make sure that we satisfy. The borough also has due process rights to make sure that those charges are adjudicated. It's supposed to be done independently by a neutral person. I'm not the judge. I don't want to be the judge. Neither is the council.
Independent by who? By what meaning?
Councilwoman O has a conflict. She's not even supposed to be engaging in this subject matter on charges involving me. Yet she is talking to the press. She is continually commenting. Okay, I recused that day of my conflict.
Carol, you're not an attorney, I can tell you that. And
Well,
you're
you're not
absolutely
acting one.
incorrect. I am not conflicted. I've sought counsel, 3 different attorneys, and they've all told me that you guys are super fishing. If anything, you guys also have told me that I am the only one out of the 120 tapes that you listen to that I am not even mentioned once, or I've never spoken a word to Chief Chaffee. So, again, I don't see any conflict there. And as far as the email lawsuits between you and me, that is completed, correct? So
No,
I see
no, it's not completed. I was in Borough Hall yesterday and spent 3 hours of my time again because of you.
Well, just to make it clear to everybody here also, the chief made these recordings with a borough-owned device, but the chief did them himself. No one on this dais had anything to do with actually producing those recordings. He, in his own lawyer's words, very stupidly and foolishly, did that, okay? And now we need to react to what he did, and that's why we need a hearing officer.
If I might just state for the record, one thing, excuse me, Mrs. McMorro. Councilwoman Park, I have advised you that I believe you do have a conflict of interest because you're suing Carol McMorrow, and your lawyer has written another letter threatening to sue the borough over a vote that Carol McMorrow took for
Right,
you.
and that you
So
and Carol McMorrow
excuse
should
me,
be
you're
thanked
interrupting me.
for voting on
Excuse
that
me,
property matter that you're
excuse me,
excluded from
Councilwoman
doing.
Park. Excuse me, you're interrupting me. You can speak after I'm done.
Because
I believe and I've opined that you have a conflict of interest. Should you choose to disregard this conflict of interest, that is certainly your choice, but you are suing her and you have threatened to sue her again, and she is the subject of at least 3 or 4 of the charges pending, not only against Chief Chiaffi, but others. Additionally, I would like to tell you that the tapes, for the most part, and especially including the ones that are quoted in all the pending charges, are not confidential under the discovery confidentiality order anymore. The designation that Chaffee put in, excuse me, you have all of the charges with quotes from the tapes to make a decision. The appointment of a hearing officer is an administrative action. Failing to appoint the hearing officer is a dereliction of your duty, both to the officers involved, to the borough, and to the citizens. It is merely the first step in a process. Further, in picking a hearing officer, we did RFQs. This hearing officer was appointed, the first one, was appointed for 1.5 years already. This is not, this council, this mayor and council chose their hearing officer in exactly the same way the year before for charges against a different officer. There is nothing untoward or unusual in the appointment of a hearing officer. Furthermore, his decision-making and his recommendations when it comes back to the council are merely a step in the process. And if he is not being independent or not judging the evidence presented to him objectively, his decision will be in writing and can be challenged on that basis. So to say, I'm not voting for a hearing officer because one side or the other chose him is merely a sideshow for what you need to do. You need to appoint a hearing officer. There are 2 choices. Mayor and council can do it. In this case, the mayor and council can't do it because all of the, some of the council members are on, referenced in these tapes, and you cannot judge as to your colleagues or your former colleagues. You must appoint a hearing officer. If you fail to do it today, maybe we'll give it a shot, maybe we won't. But the borough will get a hearing officer. You will not stop the process because it is improper to stop the process. This is the first step in the process. And the challenge that was made by Chiaffi just yesterday doesn't focus on whether or not the charges should be filed. It is whether or not he should be placed on administrative leave, which was done 2 days ago by the mayor. So that's what's being challenged in the order to show cause. The borough hasn't even been served yet, but I have the papers. So let's just be straight here. Because this is something that I have to tell all of you. You have a duty to appoint a hearing officer. Failure to appoint a hearing officer is a dereliction of your duty. And you know what? It may be that there's a whole challenge that'll come out of that. I don't know. And maybe conflicts of interest will be the subject of another lawsuit. I don't know. All I can do is give you my best judgment that you're suing Carol McMorrow and you threatened to sue her again just a couple of weeks ago.
It's not Carol McMorrow. It's Carol McMorrow, you and Mayor.
I'm sorry, you're not suing me. You're not suing me, Ellen. Let's keep the facts straight.
You know what? Every legal advice you've given us to date has been incorrect.
That's not true. Judge Farrington agreed. Didn't she put you out on a temporary order?
You know what, Emery, you
Yeah.
really need to go back and study the law.
Yeah,
Okay, that's...
I sure do.
It's too early in the morning, too early in the day to behave this way, so,
Yeah.
is the resident finished? or-
I have the one last tape.
There's one more tape, okay.
This is tape number 3. The time on this is,
President.
starts at about 2:20, 57.
On top of the police budget the whole fucking time. Fucking bullshit. Yeah, they just, they'll bullshit all this. We got, people care. No, we gotta get somebody in here. You gotta get people from the town who give a shit. People don't give a shit. Okay. That's the bottom line. Well, they got Park can't even speak English. It's true. It looks like one of those fucking clowns at the shore when you hit them in the mouth with water and the fucking balloon comes out of their head. Like,
This is our chief of police. This is our chief of police talking with a captain in his office during working hours, okay? Speaking about Councilman Mark Park, this is so disgusting to me that you can sit there, you can't even look at me in the face, okay? Because you know what you're doing is so wrong. Ed, you can't even look at me. Gloria, you can't even look. Well, you should. You just heard on an audio tape a chief of police talking about Councilman Park, okay, referencing his accent, and then making sounds about him. And then the captain goes on to say, he looks like one of those F blank 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 clowns at the shore. When you hit them in the mouth with water, the effing balloon comes out of their head. Disgusting. Disgusting. It's a racist comment. How do you guys sit there and not just see that you can't stop the process from letting the truth come out?
I'm sorry, hold on 1 second. Ms. Geiger, Ms. Norton, Ms. Simons, that was not funny. I don't know why you're laughing at this.
We're not laughing.
It's a racist comment. You should not be laughing at that.
Another commentary, another lie.
Okay,
Another lie.
stop. Please stop.
Another-
Please stop.
Another lie.
Please stop. Besides the comment about the racist comment about Councilman Park, Gloria and Ed and Ellen, you're aware of the racist comments made about Councilman Wu that you got in those charges, and the racist, disgusting commentary about former Councilman Liang. Shame on you. Each and every one of you needs to do your job as an elected official. And if you can't do your job as an elected official, step down. The people in this town deserve better. You should be ashamed of yourselves. And a no vote to appointing a hearing officer is saying that you support racist comments and hatred. That's all I have to say. Those tapes speak for themselves. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to be heard? Yes.
Lauren Eastwood, Four-Wheeler Drive. First of all, I would like to point out that when I was on the council, I was asked to vote on a hearing officer in the Lieutenant Mura disciplinary hearing at a time when Councilman Aversa was the police chair and Councilwoman O was on the police committee, with absolutely no information. I didn't even have the charges. So I think that you sitting there, Councilwoman O, saying that you don't have enough information is the height of hypocrisy. One standard when you're in control, one standard when the other party is in control. That's not how democracy works, or at least it's not how it's supposed to work. Over the last several days, there has been a lot of press coverage about Chief Chaffee's suspension. I saw Councilwoman Ellen Park complain about the mayor suspending the chief, but I haven't seen any concern about the possibility of anti-woman and racist attitudes in our police department. Unfortunately, that didn't surprise me at all. There have been red flags about Chief Chaffee since the early 1990s, and the previous administration did absolutely nothing. On March 15, 1991, more than 27 years ago, a pro se, incarcerated African-American felon sued, alleging he had been strip searched on the side of the road. The borough and/or its insurer paid $42,000 to settle that case. Sean Holloman, Holloman, versus the Borough of Englewood Cliffs, Michael Chaffee et al., federal docket number 2:91-CV-01012. On November 24, 2008, Robert Agresta sued then Deputy Chief Michael Chaffee, then Mayor Joseph C. Parisi Jr., and others, alleging, among other things, misuse of law enforcement databases. The complaint further alleges, and I quote, Agresta's campaign utilized volunteers who were, for the most part, high school and college-age students. In a most particularly outrageous display of intimidation, on the very eve of the election, November 3, 2008, Chaffee, while on duty and in uniform, stopped 3 of then-candidate Agresta's campaign workers and ordered them out of their vehicle with their hands up, and thereupon placed his hand on his service weapon, menacing and threatening the young campaign workers, and demanded that they stop placing political information, door hangers, on residences. The borough and/or its insurer paid $42,000 to settle that case, federal docket number 2:08-CV-05814. We don't know much more about that case because, conveniently, there's a discovery confidentiality order. On April 9, 2010, former patrolman James Shalhoub filed a lawsuit against the Borough of Englewood Cliffs, then Deputy Chief Chaffee and others, docket number BER-L-3324-10. It repeats the allegation about the campaign workers. It also alleges, paragraph 17, defendant Chaffee had a run-in with his brother police officers as well. Defendant Chaffee, in 12/2007, exited the Mama Mexico restaurant in Englewood Cliffs after a Christmas party in an intoxicated state and was armed. Defendant Chaffee wanted to drive his police vehicle home. The chief stopped defendant Chaffee and told him to take a police escort home because he was too intoxicated to drive. Defendant Chaffee refused and told the chief, "You're not the chief." Paragraph 18, when the chief advised defendant Chaffee that he was being ordered to take the police escort, police officer James Tracy, home, defendant Chaffee assaulted the chief in the presence of several officers, including defendant Englewood Cliffs detectives Murray and Regan. Defendant Chaffee knocked the chief to the ground during this assault. Defendant Chaffee also assaulted police officer Tracy, who was on duty and in uniform. Defendant Chaffee ripped Tracy's pants during the assault. I would note that the next paragraph of the complaint mentions a delayed issuance of I think it was a GC or something, involving then Councilwoman Lynn Norton. Mr. Shalhoub's complaint further alleges, in 2007, Defendant Chaffee used his significant political influence to intercede and cover up a relative, and I'm deleting the name is in fact in the complaint, available through the civil case room or through an archives request online, to commit administrative violations, possession of burglar tools, fire department-owned bolt cutters, a burglary, and/or theft or trespass in the Englewood Cliffs Ambulance Corps facility. Specifically, a file cabinet was breached or was the focus of the perpetrator's unlawful break and entry, where records of volunteer ambulance and/or fire department personnel could be housed. Plaintiff's records were located in a location where the relative had unfettered access due to the relative's act of breaking and entering in violation of law. Instead of swift disciplinary hearing and termination coupled with a criminal prosecution for the commission of disorderly persons and indictable offenses, Defendant Chaffee's influence allowed for his daughter only to receive a slap on the wrist, nothing more than a written reprimand. Plaintiffs found out about this incident from Walter Gundel and Robert Crane. One is a former member of the Ambulance Corps, Gundel, and the other is a current member of the Ambulance Corps. Both men informed plaintiff that no further action was taken by anyone of proper authority out of fear of being a victim of merciless reprisals by Defendant Chaffee. On December 20th, 2012, B.E. Kahn filed a lawsuit against the borough. Police Chief Michael Chaffee, then Lieutenant Timothy Regan, then Sergeant Daniel Morrissey, then Police Officer Tracy, then Police Officer Cotton, and others alleging, quote, soon after being taken into custody, the plaintiff told a friendly female employee, Jane Doe, of the Englewood Cliffs Police Department, the identity of this employee is unknown, that she had known the residents, and the name of the residents is in the federal complaint available through Facebook, since she was approximately 14 years old, and she was sexually abused by Mr. Resident for over a decade. These two essential facts the police officers refused to believe and/or investigate. That case was in federal court, docket number 2:CV-07-837. There are equally serious allegations in the lawsuit filed by then Deputy Chief McMorrow in 2012, docket number BER-L-9051-12, resident Michael Pelzer on July 19, 2013, federal court case number 2:1-CV-04306, and then Lieutenant Mura, filed on December 30th, 2015, BER-L-76-16. The borough's insurer settled two of those lawsuits for $485,000. Insurance companies don't settle lawsuits for almost $500,000 unless the lawsuits have substantial merit. Councilman Aversa and Councilwoman O, you were on the council when most of these lawsuits were filed or being litigated. You were on the council when the previous administration's borough attorney, Carter Carriston, said, and I quote, "We'll never investigate Chief Chaffee," in response to public comments about Chief Chaffee. Councilman Aversa and Councilwoman O, I want to know why you think Chief of Police Michael Chaffee is above the law. Well, I guess you don't want to answer. So I'll give you my theory. It involves cover-ups of drunk driving, drug use, driving under the influence of drugs, underage drinking, public intoxication, criminal activity by family members, cheating on your spouse, and inappropriate activity at area gyms. And I'm going to remind you once again that your responsibility is to this borough, not to your family, not to your friends, not to your political associates, and not to your business interests or your political associates' business interests. And I will also note for the record that you will even look up to hear this.
Anybody else wishing to be heard? Yes.
Lynn Norton, 9 Willow Drive. Wow, I don't even know where to start. Seems like everybody, the Councilman Aversa, Councilwoman Park, Councilwoman O, the deputy chief, the chief, the captains, they're all being tried by the Republican Party. Scary. And going through, I think my favorite one might have been Ms. Eastwood saying that she was asked to vote on a hearing officer without having any information. Gee, I sure hope you didn't vote, because if I wasn't given any information, I wouldn't vote.
Are you in favor of having a hearing officer?
It's irrelevant to the discussion, Mayor, and please don't interrupt me.
Okay. I'll take that as a no.
And then I think Mrs. McMorrow's comment of not supposed to know the facts. Wow, that's another interesting one. In the day when I sat up in the council, you always wanted to know the facts. This is a whole different ballgame, and I think this is the way the council has been run for the last 2 years. People aren't given the facts, and they're asked to vote. And I think that that's usually inappropriate, unethical, and it doesn't allow them to represent their constituents. Another question is, why does Mrs. McMorrow have access to, why is she able to discuss charges that were discussed in closed session? My understanding is that closed session information and charges and documents are to remain in closed session, not discussed in public session just because you're off the dais. There were plenty of things that could be discussed, but I believe that there are certain rules about that. Let's see. We have certain rules in the department that if you say certain things, that it should be brought up on charges. I'd like to know why the mayor never reacted to the allegations that Deputy Chief McMorrow called a homosexual police officer by very derogatory terms. I don't get it. What, do we have different rules now than we had in 2016?
Well, that's just not true.
As a matter of fact, it is. This person was made deputy chief, was made acting chief, was sent out with lots of money. You know, that was never discussed. What else do we have here? Turning down the volume on Councilwoman Park, that's always interesting. And I think we also should preface that Councilwoman McMorrow and her husband have had lawsuits out against the chief since probably 2008, 2009, somewhere in that time frame. So it's very hard to say that what she's taking doesn't have conflict of interest in there. I do have issues with that.
So you're against having a hearing officer?
You know what, Mayor? I am not discussing a hearing officer. I am discussing what was discussed today. And I'm also discussing allegations. You have people sitting up here talking about allegations and lawsuits. Let's start with the Officer Shaloub's lawsuit. I believe that was dismissed. I don't think we paid out anything. Everything that she quoted was merely an allegation.
What are your views on the recordings? What are your views on the recordings?
Mayor, you're not questioning me. I'm giving my comments. In addition, we have the Mura case and that hearing officer, where, why'd you bother? He came up, he said that, was he Lieutenant Mura at the time? Should have been, there were issues in there, and you uncategorically dismissed all charges. What did he have on you? Who knows? As far as, what else? As far as allegations, there are plenty of allegations and lawsuits against you. Are they all facts? Should we believe everything we hear in allegations, Mayor?
What's your view about the recordings? There's death threats.
I am asking you.
No,
And you know
all the
what?
lawsuits are frivolous. That's why they're all getting dismissed. So go ahead, keep
Right,
going.
so allegations are nothing. All these allegations that Ms. Easton
Right,
brings
but you're
up are
ignoring-
simply somebody's opinion.
You're ignoring the recordings.
They're not based on facts.
You're conveniently ignoring the recordings where there are
I
death
am
threats
not,
made.
oh, do you want to discuss what was in the recordings? We could say that there are,
Ms. Geiger, can you turn off your phone, please?
we don't need to, I'm not going to discuss what you want to discuss, Mayor. This is my time. I'm going to discuss what I want to discuss. And I think you take everything out of context. I
Really?
think your attorney,
I know, I just heard a chief saying that he wanted to follow the mayor and to turn on the dash cams because he's got to get me.
I didn't hear that, sorry.
No? Okay.
But that's irrelevant, because I'm not discussing
Okay,
this with
all
you,
right.
Mayor. You can smile and
That's
a little
okay.
smirk, and we can have our mayor, you know, you can misrepresent however you want, and you're...
What about the anti-Asian comments? Are you in favor of those? Are you in favor of those?
You know
The
what,
racist
Mayor?
comments? Are you in
Yeah,
favor of
yeah,
those?
there
I
was
saw you
one-
smiling before.
Yeah, it was. Because you know what? It's very convenient for all of you to say that these are racist. This was against one individual, not against a race. There was nothing racist about it. Did he say, "Oh, I hate Asians"? Did he say, "Oh, I hate Americans"? "Oh, I hate..."
I heard him make 8
No,
sounds.
I didn't hear it. You hear what you want to hear, Mayor, and that's it.
Well, maybe you'll have an opportunity to listen to them again, as will the whole community, and then we'll decide who's right and who's
Mayor,
wrong. Have a
you're
nice
always right,
day.
Mayor. You're always right. You're always one
Mayor,
side.
stop attacking
Let me
the
ask you
resident.
another question. If I had wanted to ask a question of the attorney, would you have recessed the meeting for 20 minutes? Highly unlikely. Would you have turned off the...
Well, I needed to have the attorney here.
You didn't need to have the attorney.
I
You
did.
started the meeting. You called the meeting to order.
I'm the chairperson of the
Mayor,
meeting.
you are one-sided, you are biased, you are
I've
as
also-
unethical as they come.
I've also been targeted by the person you're defending. Okay. Anybody else from the public wishing to be heard?
Yeah, tell me, Carol, there is no...
No, we have a one-time rule. Okay. Seeing and hearing no one, can I have a motion to close the public?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You know, just before we break for closed session, I just want to procedurally bring everyone up to date, because there's a lot of moving parts here. So, there are multiple administrative charges relating to the recordings against the chief and 3 other officers, and those recordings involve death threats, anti-Asian, anti-women, and other targeting matters, and also theft of overtime. There's also a criminal complaint pending regarding the chief's failure to return the borough-owned recording device. So on September 27th, what I did was I signed an order placing the chief on leave pending resolution of all administrative charges. The pay is subject to possible recoupment by the borough at a later date, and still subject to the pending vacation pay order I issued in November 2017, which basically said the chief was to go on vacation because he's got over 300 days accrued, and I think that financially, the borough is much better off paying him as vacation rather than as making it a retirement benefit, which is what a lot of police officers in the state of New Jersey wrongly do. After a few days of trying to serve my order on the chief, it was served on October 1st. He was not to be found until October 1st. The chief refused compliance with the order, and I left it to the officer in charge,
I'm sorry.
borough administrator,
Is this a court
and
order?
borough council to enforce the order. After I set another deadline, take her off speaker, I don't want to be interrupted.
You can't take her off speaker.
She's not allowed to interrupt. So after I set another deadline for the captains to actually remove the gun and badge from the chief, the gun and badge magically appeared in his locker. So that's, of course, going to prompt another investigation, okay? What's still missing is the borough vehicle that the chief uses, the borough recording device, for which there's a probable cause hearing on November 1st, the borough-owned cell phone that the chief uses, and his police identification. So the chief and the other officers do have due process rights, as does the borough. So I'm asking everyone on council to approve a hearing officer, an independent person, I'll even accept somebody that a court appoints. I don't care who it is, as long as they're neutral and independent and qualified to do what we're asking them to do. At that point, once we get a recommendation back from a hearing officer, the Borough Council can act. So, very noticeably missing from all this is any condemnation by the PBA of those recordings, by the Police Chiefs Association of those recordings, or by the union representing Borough Hall employees. Think about that. Okay, let's have a motion to go into closed session. All in favor?
And just, Madam Clerk, for the record, number 4 is being removed from the closed session.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, would you please read the appropriate language for us to go into closed session?
Whereas the mayor and council, Resolution 18199. Whereas the mayor and council of the Borough of Englewood Cliffs has deemed it necessary to go into closed session to discuss certain confidential matters, and whereas the minutes of the closed session will remain confidential as permitted under the Open Public Meetings Act, or shall be released when there is no further need for confidentiality as authorized by the borough attorney. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and council of the Borough of Englewood Cliffs will go into closed session for the following matters as permitted under the Open Public Meetings Act: pending litigation, potential litigation regarding Borough of Englewood Cliffs affordable housing, 800 Sylvan Avenue LLC versus the Borough of Englewood Cliffs, Mayor and Council and Planning Board, 800 Sylvan LLC versus the Planning Board Builders suit to challenge Planning Board in denial. Number 4 is being removed for those that have the resolution in front of them. And the last item is discussion of Attorney Shatino letter requesting payment of fees in Eastwood versus Borough O. Aversa and Ellen Park.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Park, I'll be disconnecting you because we are going into closed session.
Yes.
Okay, there was a motion by Councilman Aversa and O to come out of closed session, and we're back on.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
All right.
Yeah, I need to tell the council members what the terms of the appointment are. Again, we have on the agenda this morning, Resolution 18-200 and 18-201, appointment of hearing officer with respect to disciplinary matters. This would be a general appointment. Each resolution would be a general appointment for the borough administrator to assign disciplinary matters to one or the other of the proposed hearing officers. The purpose of the retention of the hearing officers is to provide for hearings on disciplinary matters that have been filed or may be filed in the future. The mayor and council have previously been provided with the resumes of the 2 proposed hearing officers, Alan C. Roth and Brian Cronick. The search for the hearing officers was done in a standard way. Alan Roth was approved as hearing officer for 2017 and maybe 2016, I'm not certain, I wasn't here. Previously, the borough has had hearing officers. They generally are chosen, RFQs are done, you get the resumes, you get the submissions, you get the proposals. Both Cronick, well, that's usually how it's done, and that's how I did it for these 2. You have all the documents for both of these, and you've had them for a number of months. We attempted in May and June to appoint a hearing officer. As you know, that was before, really, we had 1 pending matter at that time. Presently, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 sets of disciplinary charges pending, and they involve Chief Chiaffi and 3 other officers. As the council is well aware, there are 120 tapes Chief Chiappi is on almost all of the conversations. There are probably 3 times that amount of conversations, and there are 40 or more hours, and there are sequential missing tapes, i.e. the ones that were given are numbered and numbers are skipped, which seems to be an indication that there are missing tapes. The tape recording device is not just a tape recorder that you would think a little pocket cassette or something. It is a continuous tape recorder. I don't know the particulars. We've also been advised that there may be some IA information on there, but in any event, we do expect further charges, and it is absolutely necessary to have a hearing officer, at least 1, if not 2. I say 2 because we don't really, there isn't really a difference. They're all supposed to do their job independently and objectively based on the evidence presented. There is evidence. It is tape recordings. There is not prejudging. Understand, you don't bring charges unless there is support for the charges. And there is support for the charges enough to bring them. Now, the purpose of a hearing is to determine whether the evidence proves a violation. Then, what the penalty, if there is a violation, what is the penalty that should be done? The purpose of a hearing is to give due process to your employees who have been charged, and it is a serious matter for them. And they cannot be held in limbo. So if these resolutions or no hearing officer is appointed, there will have to be action taken. I don't know yet what that action will be, but at some point, there's going to be a hearing officer. Understand, the pendency of the charges themselves affects the benefits and pension of the officers. They are not brought willy-nilly without a valid basis. Now, due process requires for them, for the borough, and for the citizenry that hearings be held. Also understand, when faced with evidence like audio or video, the borough has an obligation to do something about it. If you have policies, codes, and laws in place, it's called enforcement. If you choose to look the other way and not have a fair hearing, not only for the officers, but for the borough who employs them, then it is my opinion that you are being derelict in your duties. It is not the point at this point merely to make an administrative appointment of a hearing officer to hear the tapes. Each one of you, council members, has the charges from May, which are about the tapes, but don't concern the content. May of 2018, serious charges were filed. The council has them. They are pending. We need a hearing officer. The charges are not about the content of the tape, but about the action of the chief in doing it in the first instance. There's no reason why that should not proceed. There is another set of charges as to the chief alone with respect to an email being sent through the email borough system. The matter has been returned by the BCPO because it was sent to the BCPO, as was the May one, was sent to the CPO. It was sent to them, they interviewed, they sent it back, charges were drafted. There is no question that the email was sent and the email was received. There is a requirement for a hearing. There are 3 or 4 other sets of charges that have at the basis actual words that have come out of the mouths of the persons charged. There should be no indication or anything necessary for any council member to hear. The quotes in the charges are put in there as accurately as possible. Now, I know several of the tapes have been played here, and they're poor audio. When you listen to the mayor and council meeting, however, you can hear those tapes. But I am counseling this council that this is not the time for us to bring forth all the proof so that you can appoint a hearing officer. That is the improper way to do things. This is the first step. And it matters not how many lawsuits we get to challenge. The borough has an obligation to bring the charges. No judge is going to say dismiss the charges at all, ever. They're not going to say that. If they have a ruling as to the method of how charges were brought, or a ruling as to putting someone on administrative leave, and I want to be clear, no suspension has been given. It is an administrative leave. So, I need to put in context that duty as a council member and as a mayor and council is to the borough. The borough has an obligation to take action when it is clear. Okay, I've said enough. I said it the last time. I said it in May. I said it in June. It is imperative that we have a hearing officer. I urge each council member to act accordingly. Now, since the last meeting, I have had emails with Chris Battaglia, and he will, both of these resolutions shall be appointment for pending hearing matters as assigned by the borough administrator in consultation with the borough attorney. The rate will be $160 an hour, and when I announce each, I will give you a not-to-exceed amount. And they both shall be subject to receipt of a signed certification of availability of funds from our CFO. And I have verified with him in writing that the funds are available. However, we don't actually have the signed certification. That's not unusual. I will make the first title, and Mayor, after I state the title, if you could ask for the motion and the second. I want to also reiterate one other thing. If you feel that you have a conflict of interest and you must recuse, or you should recuse, please do so. Resolution 18-200, appointment of hearing officer Alan Roth at the hourly rate of $160, same as previously approved, with a not-to-exceed amount of $7,500 until the disciplinary matters assigned to him by the borough administrator with consultation with the borough attorney are completed. Hold on. I think I covered everything there. I gave a not-to-exceed in an hourly, right? Okay. $7,500, $160 an hour, subject to a signed certification of availability of CFO.
Is that for 2018, or does it go forward?
It's any assigned, it goes forward.
For the matter it is.
For the matters that are assigned, you can't terminate them in the middle of the hearing.
Can someone make that motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Have a roll call.
Councilperson Zaversa?
No.
E. Park?
No.
O.
No.
M. Park?
Yes.
Wu?
Yes.
Mayor, there's 3 noes and 2 yeses. Does not pass.
Motion fails. I will need that in the minutes, how to
Yes,
vote
of
now.
course.
Okay, thank you. Resolution number 18-201, appointment of hearing officer Brian Cronin with respect to disciplinary matters at the hourly rate of $160 and a not-to-exceed amount of $7,500, to be assigned matters by the borough administrator in consultation with the borough attorney and subject to the receipt of a signed certification of availability of funds.
So moved.
Second.
Councilperson Zaversa?
No.
E. Park?
No.
O.
No.
M. Park?
Yes.
Wu?
Yes.
Mayor, it fails, it does not pass.
Okay, so this council has failed in its duties to provide due process rights to the officers and chief that have charges pending against them, and also the due process rights of the borough, which is the employer of those officers. It seems that the moral compass has left the room on my right, just as it has with respect to some people in the police department. My mission is to bring that moral compass back to this body, this deliberative body, and also to the police department, which I will do with the assistance of Anne Marie Rizzuto. We have a plan to do that. Okay, let's do the next resolution,
All right,
18202.
Here, actually, are you going to state the motion?
For all three items,
Yes.
including the,
Maybe you should
Yeah.
do
The order.
three separate motions?
yes.
Okay.
Okay, as discussed in closed session, Resolution 202 and 203 will be carried to a special meeting on Tuesday, October 16 at 8 p.m. We need a motion to carry.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Resolution 18203, as discussed in closed session, resolution will be carried to a special meeting on Tuesday, October 16 at 8 p.m. Motion to carry? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We had an ordinance for public hearing tonight of ordinance 1815, that was discussed in closed session to carry. We need a motion? In a second. Mayor, may I take a roll call?
Yes.
All right, so,
You need to say
Yeah, yeah.
motion to carry the
right.
date.
So, we have a motion and a second to carry to a special meeting on Tuesday, October 16 at 8 p.m. Councilperson Zaversa?
Yes.
E. Park?
Yes.
O.
Yes.
M. Park?
Yes.
Wu?
Yes.
Mayor, everything's carried over to the special meeting.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.